So the aim of first foods is really all about getting babies used to new textures, tastes and flavours. Now we know that all babies are different, so some babies will accept a wide range of foods almost instantly and be really excited to get going, whereas some babies might be a little bit more reluctant and need more tastes of foods before they're willing to accept them. So savoury tasting vegetables are a really good place to start when you're thinking about the first foods to introduce to your baby. We know that evidence shows that if babies are introduced to savoury vegetables early on in their weaning diet, they're more likely to accept them in meals and they're more likely to eat them in later childhood. So start with these. This includes things like broccoli, cauliflower, courgette, peas and spinach. They have a more savoury taste to them, slightly more bitter. Once baby has accepted savoury tasting vegetables, you can then start to introduce sweeter tasting vegetables such as carrot and butternut squash. It's a good idea to introduce any vegetable one at a time, and that's so baby becomes familiar with their individual tastes, textures and other sensory properties such as colour. Once they've been introduced to this food a few times, you can then start to mix different vegetables to make new flavour combinations. Introduce a wide range of vegetable colours to babies because this will be more exciting and the food will look more appealing and babies might be more willing to try. That being said, you don't need to buy expensive vegetables. Try to buy foods that are in season because that will help to keep the cost down. You can also buy not only fresh but things like frozen and tinned vegetables as well. If you're buying any tinned vegetables, just make sure that it's tinned in water and not in salted water or brine. We know that we want to keep salt and sugar out of babies' diets for as long as possible. We know salt can be harmful for their developing kidneys, and sugar can also start to damage their developing teeth that they might have. Some vegetables will be fine to prepare and serve to your baby almost instantly, so foods for example like avocado, it's a nice soft texture, you'll be able to cut that up either into a finger food or mash it down into the desired texture. Whereas foods such as carrots are very tough, you would need to lightly cook them before serving them as a finger food or mashing them down. So fruits can also be introduced to babies, but as I say, it's good to wait until they've had exposure and taste of some savoury vegetables. So fruits can include things like strawberries, raspberries, melon, pineapple, papaya, mango, a whole range of different fruits. Try again to think about foods that are in season to help keep the costs down. You'll find that some fruits need to be cooked before they're okay to serve to baby. So for example, apple can be quite tough, so if you were going to serve them as a finger food, you might want to lightly cook them first, or if you're making them into a mashed food or a puree texture, again lightly cooking them would help. Just be careful of any skin that might be on fruit. For example, apple skin can be quite tough, so even if you've cooked the fruit, it can still be quite difficult for babies to eat. So you may need to peel them first. Also be mindful that some fruit will have pips, seeds and stones in, so you'll just need to remove those before making them suitable for babies. Again, if you're offering any tinned fruit to babies, like tinned peaches for example, just make sure that the peaches are in their own juice or in juice as opposed to in syrup, which we know has added sugar. If you're serving more kind of sour fruits to your baby and you want to maybe add a little bit more sweetness rather than adding sugar, use a sweeter type of fruit and mix those together to make it more palatable for baby. So a range of starchy foods can actually be introduced to babies too. So that includes things like potato, sweet potato, yam, rice, pasta, cornmeal, millet, and even cereals such as oats. Now oats are good because you can actually mix them with baby's normal milk, so whether that be breast milk or formula milk, they can be added with the oats. From 6 months we know that babies can start to have pasteurised whole cow's milk or alternatives used as an ingredient in food. Those are not suitable as main drinks until baby is over the age of 12 months. There's no need to buy expensive baby versions, things like baby rice or baby porridge. You can simply buy regular rice and regular porridge and adapt the texture and the consistency to make them suitable for your baby. It will certainly be a much cheaper way of buying these foods. So try to include some protein foods into baby's diet because not only is it a good source of protein, but it's also a good source of important nutrients like zinc and iron. Protein foods include things like meat, chicken, eggs, lentils, beans and pulses. It even includes smooth nut butters and smooth seed butters too from 6 months. Meat and fish can be introduced into your baby's diet as first foods. Just make sure that they're at the appropriate texture. So for example, you might want to buy minced beef or minced chicken or turkey, and once cooked it's easier to mash down. If not, once foods are cooked, you can easily mash them, chop them, or even blend them into the desired texture. Just make sure that they contain no gristly bits or bones before serving to baby. Foods like eggs, beans and lentils and pulses are much easier because once they're cooked, they're very easy to mash or blend and make into baby's desired texture. So pasteurised dairy foods and calcium-fortified alternatives are good foods to introduce to baby when you start to wean them. Now these foods are great because they're usually very thin in texture, very smooth in texture, so they're easy to incorporate into baby's food without much preparation. Just make sure to buy full fat, regular yoghurt that isn't sweetened. Often baby yoghurts and fromage frais can have a lot of sugar or sweetener in them, so it's best that you just buy the plain varieties, and if you wanted to, you could add a little bit of mashed fruit. Just to mention a note on allergies. When introducing the foods that are more commonly associated with allergies, these include things like cow's milk, eggs, nuts, peanuts, seeds, fish, shellfish. Introduce these foods one at a time and give it a few days in between introducing each one. And that's so that if baby does develop any kind of reaction, it's much easier for you to pinpoint which food may have caused it.